Cardinals back in action tomorrow night at SMU. The rematch between the Cardinals and the Mustangs. We'll preview that, this week's action, and also take a look at some bracketology as we get closer and closer to the ACC tournament. But first, fellas, how we doing? It's a little bit warmer today. Obviously, I'm wearing a T-shirt today, which it feels like I haven't done. Well, probably last week there was one day, but outside of that, it's been a long time coming. Getting rid of the quarter zips, the pullovers, the hoodies, you name it.
It's been good. This week has been already, I feel like, extremely long. I feel like I just get.
It's one of those Mondays, huh?
It is. I've had It's been a pretty long Monday so far, but Roman's filling in for me for tonight for. Is it St. X? I think it's
St. X tonight.
Which I appreciate him for that. So I get to go home, hang out with the girlfriend, hang out with the dogs. That's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. But the weekend itself, I literally just did nothing. I just played the game.
There you go.
I literally was on the game all weekend. This is the first weekend in about a couple months where I just had nothing to do. And I swear to God, if one person even tried to text me with plans, I would have blocked your phone number. I was not.
Hey, sometimes you need those recharging, weekends. I feel like especially because my busy time of the year with my day job is like January, February. That's why our schedule's kind of been hectic on the programming of the show, but overall, sometimes you just need a weekend to where you're like, you know what? I'm just not going to do anything for close to 72 hours and just kind of let it go. I'm going to search up bidets and try to find one for my house, is what Matt said.
Always looking for a good deal if you know one.
There you go. There you go. There's a lot of stuff to get into tonight, gentlemen. 502-414-1450, the Gameday Men's Health text line. To get any thoughts in, any questions. What impressed you the most about Michael Brown Jr.? What impressed you the most about this week's pair of victories? Louisville currently on a 5-game winning streak dating back to the first SMU game on January 31st. What you think about where Louisville sits in current bracketology? I think it's a little bit too low for where their metrics and other polls have them at. But we're going to start out with Michael. That's the main news on this Monday afternoon.
Bucket getter.
Got rewarded for his efforts this past week. Of course, he went full on, just complete takeover mode. One thing that I wanted to see is we've seen him have some really good games. Obviously, nothing up to the standard of the NC State performance, but I think consistency was the issue, or lack thereof, right? We saw a 20-point performance by Michael, and sometimes it's been followed up with one where, he just hasn't shot the ball well. Couldn't really get going offensively. I mentioned it on my podcast that I wanted to see Michael follow up the 45-point performance with another really solid one. Maybe he doesn't have to get to 40 points, but wanted to see him be super effective. And, he was. 29 points. What was it? 6 assists, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pulling up the line right now. 29 points, 6 assists, 5 steals, and 3 rebounds. So I think he more than answered the bell there. He rose the occasion. He had 2 really good performances where he looked like arguably the best point guard in the country, and guess what? He got rewarded in being named the Naismith Player of the Week. Can I ask you all this to start out with? What was different? Because we've all known that this was a capability with him. We know how talented that he is, but what was different in the way that Michael was moving this past week?
He's letting the game come to him. I think just not having the mindset that he has to go out there and create everything happening on the floor for him to be successful. He's got a lot of skill around him. He's got a good game plan and coaching staff around him as well that's going to create and generate for him. I think you're kind of starting to see them make little adjustments, little tweaks, knowing when to clear out, knowing when to utilize his ability to get downhill. And he's finally gotten on the same page with Pat Kelsey on when the jump shots need to be going up and when they don't. And when you are just letting the game flow and you have a skill set like he does and you're able to get to the free throw line again in a game where the whistle is kind of going pretty heavily, it's all going to start to kind of fall in line if he just continues to take good shots.
Yeah,
I think he also defended extremely well too, and that had played a part in us being able to get out in transition and create easier looks.
That was something that, like, the pre-season talk, everyone was wondering about his defensive abilities. And I made the point, it's like, the guy is 6'5". He's going to put on a little bit of strength and weight in the weight room over the offseason. And you've seen him lock up other guys in his class, which is turning out to potentially be the best draft class since 2003. I mean, it's incredible how good this freshman class is. So what Michael did last spring against some of the best freshmen in the country, defensively speaking, I thought it was going to translate, and you're watching it translate. Now, were there times against Baylor where a guy who was over 6'7" and had more strength when they got put onto Michael, did Michael get pushed back toward the basket some? Yeah. Am I worried about it? No. How many teams are going to be built like Baylor, who, not really a tall team, but they started like 5 dudes all over 6'3", 6'4", and versatility and toughness is the name of the game. And no matter what you throw at Michael, he's shown that even if it takes a little bit to get going in terms of putting the ball on the floor and getting to the basket, he's going to find out ways to do that. First half, you saw the three-point shooting against Baylor. Second half, you saw him take everyone one-on-one. How many times did he beat Tunde Yesufu off the dribble? That's a 5-star from this past class. And I know you saw that. I mean, Louisville basketball tweeted out the poetry in motion, the jab step followed by the quick spin move and finish him with the opposite hand. First of all, Michael's really good with his left hand. He had a left-handed floater. It's just, he's such a complete guard prospect for the NBA draft. And that's what people were moving in the wrong direction with Michael. People were writing him off, and he didn't write back. What bothered me most during this whole last couple months, and look, criticism was justified. Was he playing up to his potential? I mean, not really. Wasn't shooting the ball well, but he also missed a month and a half. And trying to come back from a back injury, you can't expect him to be a 30 points per game scorer every time he steps foot on the floor when he hadn't played in a month and a half, and he was trying to find his footing for early on. He wasn't shooting the ball well before the break. But this is the thing for me. Criticize his scoring all you want, his shot selection all you want, but when you start to tell me that he is not a good floor general and he doesn't have good court vision, I've got to stop there. I have to immediately disagree because I think it is absolutely foolish, and we are trying to associate the turnovers with a bad feel for the offense in the half court, and I don't agree. I think it's him pushing the issue a little bit and speeding up at times, which, I mean, he's still a young player as a freshman and trying to slow down your operating speed at times. But there's a reason why even in his struggles, nobody dropped him in NBA draft circles. There's a reason why, and it's because when he's at his best, and you saw it this week, he processes the game, not only in the half court, but in transition as well, to where not many players in college basketball see the floor like him. You have a 6'5" floor general that can score at all 3 levels in the half court, that can push the issue in transition, and also make certain passes and certain reads that your everyday point guard doesn't make. That is who Michael Brown Jr. is, and that's why people have been talking about him like a top 10 pick over the past 18 to 24 months. So, say what you want about his shot selection. We criticized it a ton, but when you try to tell me that this guy doesn't have good court vision, I have to question whether or not we're watching the same player.
See, I feel like based on the overall gameplay around how he played against Baylor, I feel like that was his best game in a Louisville uniform so far this season. Obviously 45 points is hard to beat, but I mean, the dude played extremely efficiently. Like you said, he saw the floor better than anybody else. Like, he got his teammates involved. It wasn't just on the scoring end. My favorite thing about this version of Michael is that it was the most mature version of Michael we've seen this year, where started off really hot in the first half. In the second half, you could see that Baylor made the adjustments to kind of push him off the three-point line, force him to take the paint, and he didn't only just, he didn't take any really bad shots. He didn't only try and take dudes off the dribble. It almost was like he knew exactly which situation, when to take somebody off the dribble, when to look for the open man, when to try and get his teammates involved. Mm-hmm. It looked like it was one of those games where you just feel like you were one step ahead of the competition at all times. When they made an adjustment, you immediately made an adjustment, and that was what Michael did in this game against Baylor. It felt like he always made the correct decision, and I know that that's not going to be every single game. He's going to have games where he has a rough stretch. Maybe he commits a couple turnovers early and has to bounce back. But this was one where I feel like because he started out pretty well, it was his most flow state-esque game as a point guard, not as a scorer. And I loved watching it. I mentioned to Roman earlier, one of my favorite things that I've seen out of Michael these past 2 or 3 games is you mentioned his ability to defend the ball. Like you say, he's not the biggest dude in the world. He's got length. He's got athleticism, so that gives him an advantage against better talent. But he's not the greatest on-ball defender ever. And I feel like he's already kind of adjusted to that in terms of in the past couple games, we've seen this man work extremely hard off ball. Even in situations where he's getting 2 or 3 off-ball screens set on him to get the primary ball handler the ball, he's fighting through. He's playing the lanes over and over. This man, I mean, I've watched him jump 3 or 4 passes and push it into transition extremely quickly and multiple times this game. It reminds me a lot of what we saw with Tyrese Halliburton in the Pacers the past couple of seasons, where his big thing was this guy can't guard a moving cone out there on the court. So what they did, they started switching Andrew Nembhard onto the primary ball handler, and then he would play the second option, and he would just jump the lane, basically just keep the ball out of his hand. And that's what it seems like Pat Kelsey has done with Michael. He is great. He does guard the primary ball handler a good amount of time. But when he's off the ball is when he does his best work. He gives those dudes hell. He makes them work for it. He does not allow them to get to the spot first without him being there. And I feel like a lot of that has come down to just our intensity on the defensive end, our effort level on the defensive end has increased, and you can really see that Michael is listening to the people across the country talking about, hey, man, if you want to raise your draft stock, you get out there and play. I mean, you're right, Dalton. The man has shown that.
I don't think he's really listening to anybody. I think if you're that level of prospect, I think that there are probably people telling you or telling your camp, like, hey, this is probably what you need to work on. But I don't think you're going into Twitter and saying, okay, what are people saying about me today? Now, maybe if you're Kevin Durant.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, like, he's grasped the opportunity that he has right now. I feel like this is the perfect time for him to take over a game like this.
Because everybody's paying attention to college basketball because we are getting closer and closer to the NCAA.
Well, I was going to make a connection to Darren Peterson, who is like his number one op right now.
You think so?
I mean, I think so, especially because, you started the season off against each other.
That if Peterson, here's the thing about it is, I think Michael, there's a clear top 3, right? It's Peterson. I mean, in my opinion, it's Peterson, AJD, and Cam Boozer. Like, that's your top 3, and I think that people have been rolling with that for the past couple months. I think you have a group of about maybe like 10 dudes underneath that where it's like, okay, now here's your Koa Pete, your Braden Burries, your Michael Brown Jr., Darius Acuff, what's his name? Is it Wagler from
Keaton Wagler?
From Illinois?
Is it Keaton or is it?
I think it's Keaton.
Right.
Keaton Wagler from Illinois. You've got Caleb Wilson, and who knows what. I think his stock's going to be fine, even though he has that fractured left-hander. I think that's what it is, which is huge in itself because I don't think you're going to be playing against Caleb Wilson next Monday if that timeline holds up, and we do hope he has a full and fast recovery. Who am I missing? Because there's some people I'm missing. I don't think Ibuka Okori is in that like conversation yet, but there's some other guys that I'm missing here, and it's driving me nuts. Who are some other top freshmen?
Who's the kid from Illinois?
That's who we just mentioned. Keaton Wagler.
Oh, Keaton Wagler. Yeah, I'm thinking of
Kingston Fleming.
Yes,
Fleming's who I'm thinking of.
That's his biggest competition, I think, at the moment because
Nate
Ament. I think Fleming's. I think you're looking at that trio: Fleming's, Acuff, and Michael. Because I don't think no matter how you slice it, that top 3, like Peterson's going top 3. Even with all the issues, people have identified him as like a can't miss prospect with talent. I think Michael is competing for like that. Maybe 3 through 10 range, because I think he goes top 10. The thing is, okay, is he going to show enough? And you still have the draft, and you have, pre-draft thoughts from teams. So he's going up against Darius Acuff, who looks really good right now. Same with Kingston Flemings. So I think that that's his competition. But you're right. I do think that we're humans at the end of the day, right? Watching those two ball out, and you're starting to get disrespected to the point to where people are saying, well, maybe Michael needs a second season, which is hilarious for me. Actually, you know what? Maybe they're on to something. I think we need Michael back for a second season, guys. I think Michael needs to come back and
Unfortunately, I think that he would cost more money than anybody would be willing to give.
I don't know. I think Michael needs to stay all 4 years selfishly as a Louisville fan, but he showed last week the court vision, and there just aren't many players. I think you could probably count on your one hand how many players in college basketball have as good of court vision as Michael does.
Like 2 or 3.
I mean, yeah, and some of them might be upperclassmen.
Braden Smith up there.
Yeah, I think Braden Smith will be up there. Honestly, I think that Darius Acuff would be up there as well because he's a really good passer.
He is.
But let me ask you all this. And it also, it's like, I'll make one more point before I bring up this question. This is like insane marketing for Louisville, right? And this is kind of, if you've been on that hill screaming from the mountaintop saying Louisville needs to go out and get difference-making 5-star freshmen because look at the marketing that it's doing for the program. Your point guard is the Naismith Player of the Week. Everyone's been talking about Michael because not only are college basketball fans discussing him, how many times did you see in the quote tweets or the comments like, yeah, insert team here needs to make sure that they complete the tank to get this guy? Like, when's the last time that Louisville's had anyone of that caliber? Has there been that time in our lifetime? Because Donovan Mitchell wasn't that highly regarded as a prospect.
No, not that I can think of. I mean, maybe back in like T-Will.
Even then, like, social media really wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't that big.
So
like, but I'm thinking, like, if he was at this time, at this kind of era, maybe T-Will would have been like that.
I mean, I would agree. I think he was flashy enough with his athleticism that people would naturally watch him more. But here's my question. If Michael consistently, like, if this is the new norm for Michael, not from, like, a number standpoint, but from an effectiveness standpoint, where he's scoring the basketball, but he's also just commanding the defensive attention, and he's being a solid point of attack defender. If this is the Michael that you're getting moving forward, how does this change your viewpoint on Louisville?
Go ahead, Matt.
How does it raise their ceiling, and if so, how much? And how much better do you feel about this team knowing that this is sort of the variation of Michael that you're going to get?
If this is the variation of Michael we're going to get down the stretch, and obviously that doesn't mean 30 points a game, Michael, but like you said, in terms of effectiveness, like this is how he changes the game for the Louisville Cardinals moving forward. It should, at least for me, it changes my entire perspective on this basketball team because I feel like the one thing that I feel like almost every Louisville fan can atone to is that we've seen that this offense was built around Michael Brown Jr. playing his best basketball, or at least effective basketball. And we've seen how this team changes with him being gone, with him being back. What are they, 5-1 with him back now at this point, a 5-game win streak?
They lost to Duke.
Duke was the only one?
Well, I mean, they're I think 6-1 because they beat Virginia Tech the game before Duke.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember the number of how
6-1.
I am at this point where if this is the Michael Brown we are going to see moving forward, and if it's consistent enough, I mean, I'm fully back on like this team could be Final Four potential. This team could be Elite Eight potential because when you have a guy who affects the game like he does, not in just like a Cam Boozer way where late shot clock, let's just get to the paint, Cam Boozer, he'll just be bigger than somebody, or or like a Darren Peterson where this guy can take over anybody one-on-one in late game situations. Michael Brown makes every player on this team 3 times better than they are without him, and it almost. I don't want to say it was good playing without him, but it was almost a humbling experience this team needed to play without him to kind of bring everybody and the fan base down to earth to know that, guys, this is the 5-star athlete that we got. This is the top 10 draft pick. This is what it's like when you lose a guy like that on your team. And Michael Brown is showing not only us, but the rest of the country that, hey, you cannot count me out. You can't count this team out because when Michael Brown is playing at his best, this team can compete against anybody in the country, and I fully believe that.
I'm with you there for the most part. I agree with everything you said, especially just about how his attention can command things on the floor. And if you can get that kind of productivity from him, then it does elevate things. Now, for my expectation doesn't get raised all that much. I think that a lot of what I believe about this roster and the way that they are capable of defending, there's not a lot of room for movement there. With that being said, if your offense is being commanded by Michael Brown Jr. in this type of a facet, then I fully believe the possibility for going and beating teams that let's just say they're better than you, is a lot higher now.
I'm going to bring this to your all's attention because certain metrics matter more in the grand scheme, right? I don't know if you all follow Haslam metrics a ton. Eric Haslam on X or Twitter, or whatever you want to call it. I've been a huge fan of his analytical approach over the really probably past decade. When I did college basketball reporting, that was one of the main metrics I used along with Torvik and Ken Palm and stuff like that. He released his efficiency rankings yesterday. Top 15 offensive efficiency, which is points per 100 possessions, okay? Efficiencies displayed are for possessions where game's outcome is still in doubt, so it's, not a blowout. Louisville is number 11. They are the top team in the ACC when it comes to offensive efficiency, according to this metric. Defensively, this is where it was interesting because this is the same thing. Its efficiencies displayed are for possessions where game outcome is still in doubt. Top 15 defensive efficiency, Louisville's number 15. So I think the analytics value Louisville more than the eye test almost. Because defensively, we watched the Cardinals struggle with what they struggle with. But truthfully, outside of Wake Forest in this 5-game winning streak, I think Louisville's defense has been pretty solid. Outside of the first half against SMU. Now, it's all in the name of consistency, right? Being better in terms of positioning. But having Michael on the court and having him playing at the level he's playing at is also a luxury on the defensive end because they missed him defensively when he was gone. Because
slowed everything down.
Yeah.
Led to long, bad shots.
Well, Michael is, again, we get back to the point that he is 6'5". He's not a small guard. Now, he's not the strongest guard, but what he lacks with that strength, he makes up for with his height and his wingspan. So he's not a lockdown defender, but he's much better of an individual point of attack defender that people want to give him credit for.
I think that something that we've watched Pat Kelsey and this team focus on since Michael's been back, and Roman kind of touched on it already, is like their speed of play. Whereas when we lost Michael, you inevitably were going to have to slow the game down.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you don't have another I mean, Kobe Rogers can play at a really fast pace, but he's not a floor general. He's not a high-level scorer. He's a guy to come off the bench and give Michael a break for a little bit, just who knows, has a little bit of vision, can pass the ball. But when Michael's been on the floor, we've seen this team who basically – I think at this point they even know that they're not the greatest defensive team in the country. I think we all know that. We've seen it. There's a lot of issues with this team defensively, but I think an adjustment that I like that we've made, and it doesn't work without Michael, and that's why I've seen it really explode here these past couple weeks, is this team is focusing their offense on turning defense into points now. We're speeding other teams up on the defensive end, making it really tough for guys to catch us off the dribble, playing really aggressive help defense, and trying to force more turnovers as possibly as we can, and just speed everybody up down the court, which without Michael, we just physically cannot do. We don't have the athletes for it. But I think it's worked so far. I think it's made a lot of teams really uncomfortable. Duke is the outlier in that, where, I mean, we just were kind of the more I've watched this team play, I keep looking at that game as like, okay, maybe just caught Duke on a really good night and Cameron Indoor on one of our worst nights. Michael is still fighting to come back. He's not himself yet. But this team has done a great job of turning defense into offense in a non-traditional sense. And
well, you got to use transition. I mean, this team is really good in transition, but they're also improving in the half court, which is awesome.
This is not a team that's going to get you 6 to 7 stops in a row, and give another team hell. But this is going to be a team that can give you 2 or 3 stops in a row based on transition, speed the game up, make you really uncomfortable, and then turn those into points, get a decent deficit going early in the game, and now you're in a buffer zone.
Yeah, I mean, the pace of play is huge, and it was pointed out pretty quickly after he returned, is that they are, I mean, outside of the Duke game, they're pushing the ball up the floor. They're getting in transition, and that's creating some mismatches. That's creating open shots. I also think that you've got to give some credit to Isaac McNeely. I think that McNeely is playing much better than he has over the past couple games than he did the entire season up to this point. And it's not just like shooting the ball. It's defending. they were targeting Isaac almost every start, but he's held his own defensively. The team is starting to play its best basketball. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what the most encouraging aspect of that Baylor victory was. Don't go anywhere. Tune into Mondays with Dalton Pence here on Big X Sports Radio. Top of the hour, February 16th edition of Mondays with Dalton Pence continues here on Big X Sports Radio. Dalton, Roman, and Matt taking up till 7 o'clock tonight. Just had a good conversation about the increased level of play from the current Naismith National Player of the Week, that is star point guard Michael Brown Jr. Him returning has helped Louisville go on a 5-game winning streak. The most recent win was over Baylor down in Waco. Well, actually, in Fort Worth. Felt like it was in Waco with some of these calls. But can we start out here? Can we stop scheduling quote-unquote neutral site games in other teams' backyards? Like, can we stop that? I understand you're trying to build up your resume. You're trying to build up, iron sharpens iron. You're trying to create some challenges, but you don't benefit from these. If you're going to play a neutral game, play a true neutral game.
I don't think they get much of a choice, it sounds like. It's like, if you want to play us, we'll play you neutral.
Then don't play them. Then you don't have to play Indiana or Baylor if that's the case. Somebody will schedule you in Chicago or New York or Atlanta or Las Vegas. But playing Indiana in Indianapolis, where it was 90% Crimson, no thanks. Let's stop that. Playing Baylor in Fort Worth, like, okay, if your goal is a home and home, right? A neutral site home and home. Cincinnati made sense. But Indiana, what's the neutral site there? What are they? Are you going to play in Freedom Hall? You're not going to. It doesn't help your resume either. Because think about it. A neutral site quad 1 opportunity is against a team 1 through 50. If you would have just classified that as a road game, if you would have played an hour north, which is basically you're already a road team, if you would have played Indiana an hour, it's actually, what, southwest Bloomington of Indianapolis?
Yeah,
hour
because you have to pass the exit of Bloomington to Indianapolis.
About hour southwest. You take away 25 other spots because it's 1 through 75 is the quad 1. So playing these quote-unquote neutral site games, I don't care how much money you're getting paid to play these games, it doesn't help you at all. And it's frustrating as can be. Because are we going to play a neutral site game close to Louisville against Indiana or Baylor? Probably not. Because where would you even play?
I think Baylor we're supposed to, aren't we?
Maybe, but where are you going to play?
Indiana, I don't
If you play Baylor in Indianapolis, okay. Cool. That's fine.
I agree with what you're saying.
You play 2 road games where you don't get to benefit from a road game on the resume.
It's the same.
Yeah, that's silly.
It's the same.
Does that make sense? Is that what I'm saying here?
It's the same situation with whenever we lost the Georgia game for football. And it was, okay, well, we're not going to go play in Athens anymore. They're not going to play us here. We're going to get another SEC school or Big Ten powerhouse, and we're going to play them neutral side.
And I'm fine with playing Ole Miss in Nashville. But that is a neutral site game.
Our whole thing was like, of course, now we're going to get like LSU, and then we're going to have to play them all the way in like Atlanta or something. You know,
if you play LSU in New Orleans, it's the same concept.
Exactly.
That is a road game.
Yes, and I think we got kind of lucky with Ole Miss coming to Nashville, which is more beneficial to us. But I get what you're saying. It's the same exact principle. Is okay. Yeah, we're getting to play this school that gives us a good quad 1 opportunity or a really good win if we pull it out, but we're playing an hour away from their campus.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the exact same thing as going and playing Miami on the road.
And you wonder why you're not getting any calls.
Yeah.
That you wonder why Baylor has 13 free throws to your 0, 4 minutes left in the first half.
It's a road environment.
Texter says here on the Gameday Men's Health text line, isn't there another Baylor game that they're talking about being in Nashville or something?
See, I thought that there was something. Baylor in Nashville wouldn't be bad. That's a road game. Or not a road game. That's a neutral site game. I'm going to look that up. Because I thought that I've heard something like that. I know some of these are supposed to be like neutral site home and home. But then again, until they get confirmed, it's hard to really look.
Try to go get true road games if that's what we're going to go.
Yeah, I agree. If you want to play Indiana in Indianapolis, you might as well play them in Assembly Hall. If you're going to play Baylor in Fort Worth, you might as well play them in Waco. That's the way I look at it, because you need to reap the benefits. Because it's just kind of like the thought process behind it. People think about neutral wins different than they do road wins, right? Am I wrong?
No.
Somebody sent a link. Why is Baylor playing Louisville during Big 12 play?
Big 12 bye weeks.
Let's see. Looking through that. Okay, it says initially, Baylor and Louisville agreed on a neutral site game in 2025-26 and 26-27. The opportunity allowed for two incredibly storied programs to clash in an elite matchup. Yeah, we just don't know where that's going to be. I mean, if Nashville is the rumored place, then I guess we just kind of have to wait to see where that's actually going to get.
Now, hear me out. We bring Baylor in.
Texter also says, this says another in 26-27, but not where. But I thought Paul Rogers or Jody Demling saying they were looking at Nashville. And if one of those people says it, then there's probably some truth to it.
I say we scrap it. I say we bring them in, and we play Baylor in Knights Hall. We get
that.
We get them a true road environment of 7,000 people.
Put a court in the Mercury Ballroom.
Yes. You know how electric that would be?
Back to the Louisville Gardens. Broadbent Arena.
Oh, please. We get the horses running the track around the game. We got dirt bikes jumping over the arena.
Yeah, it's crazy. You hear the words Broadbent Arena, and you can immediately imagine the smell.
Yes.
It's like Freedom Hall's kind of got like that popcorn type smell. Broadbent Arena smells like livestock.
I had to have my graduation in there. It was horrible.
Broadbent Arena?
Yes. My high school graduation.
My high school one was in Freedom Hall. My obviously college one was in the Yum Center, but I remember that smell very profoundly. But anyways, off my soapbox about the neutral site versus road games, Louisville did cover the spread against Baylor. They won the game by 11. They had a good start, which was followed up by a not-so-good stretch in the middle where they were up by 7, and then in the blink of an eye, they were down by 7. They ended the first half pretty well, and then second half, I will give Pat Kelsey credit for the adjustments that he made. Thought Louisville did a much better job of defending the mismatches.
Yep.
And offensively, it seemed like Baylor, look, they play physical. You know when you go up against Scott Drew, his team's going to play physical. That's how they play. And they were getting pretty physical on the high ball screen, especially on the ball handler. So every time that Michael was getting a screen or Ryan was getting a screen, they would get physical coming off of the ball screen. And in the second half, you could see that they made just some few tweaks that allowed them to get downhill more effectively. It's also a game where, there's this running narrative that Pat Kelsey can't beat good coaches. Well, Scott Drew's a good coach. Things might not be going his way since his 2021 national championship, but he does indeed have a national championship. So it's just one of those where I'm more encouraged about the way Louisville won rather than the fact that they won. Because all season long we've been talking about, well, how's Louisville going to counteract a team's physicality on on defense, defending Louisville's offense? Because teams have been really good at speeding Louisville up, forcing them to take some ill-advised shots. And on Saturday, I watched a very calm and collected offense. It was very meticulous. Michael Brown Jr. was surgical. He didn't let Baylor really get in his head. Neither did Ryan Conwell. And Louisville, it was business as usual. They had almost 50 points in the second half alone.
Even through that calmness, Dalton, the ball never stopped.
There were a couple of possessions where I think some bad shot selection was here and there, but you can't have a perfect half of basketball. Like, Louisville was moving the ball really well.
Players moving off of the ball really well.
Well, don't forget, Baylor, how many times were they knocking on the door in the second half? When Louisville got up by like 5 or 7, Baylor tried to get back into it. And every time Baylor tried to get back into it, the Cardinals had an answer. We have not seen that from this team against a team as physical as Baylor all season long. And that's where I'm like, okay, yeah, you beat a 13-11 team by 11. You cover the spread. It is what it is. Nobody's really going to look at this win as a signature victory, nor should they. But it was a quad 1 victory.
And you dominated athleticism, which we haven't seen.
I mean, you look at the numbers. Louisville got out-rebounded by 1. It felt like a lot more. Louisville got out-rebounded by 1, and they gave up 71 points. So they weren't terrible defensively. Now they allowed Baylor just to continue to shoot the ball, and they were throwing up tour dates from the three-point line. I mean, 2 of 22 from the three-point line were the Baylor Bears. But, hey, Louisville was like, you know what? If you're just going to keep shooting those threes, we're just going to keep letting you shoot those threes. And was really encouraged by the performance overall, because at this point in the season, wins are what matters, guys, but I'm also looking to see how Louisville has improved from that Duke game, and Baylor showed me that I think a considerable amount.
This was a game where I also was watching, and there were stints in it where I was extremely disappointed in what was going on defensively, especially because of the drastic free throw numbers that we had to go up against. What was it, 17-2 in the first half, or 15-2?
Hey, get it right. It's 15-2.
15-2. Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't want to spread any misinformation.
Just for that, 2 more free throws for Baylor.
Which in this game, I wasn't sitting here screaming at the officiating because there was genuine points in this game where Louisville just could not defend without fouling.
Yeah, no, it is.
Which mentioned that you mentioned in the second half, even towards the end of the first half, pulled it together and adjusted defensively to force them onto the three-point line, to force them to keep shooting. They weren't able to get to the rim as easy anymore, and you were more physical pushing them off their own spot than before. We were getting beat to every spot they wanted to get to.
Well, they're also trying to screen. Like, here's the thing. They didn't have the height as much as maybe Louisville did in the front court, but you have, like I said, a really tall backcourt, a physical backcourt to where at some point there's going to be a mismatch somewhere. You just have to find it. In the first half, they were exploiting that mismatch every single time down the floor, and Louisville just allowed their guy to get backed into the paint. Well, here's the thing. When they tried that in the second half, the help defense rotated over so much faster. And you send it back out to the three-point line, and then before you know it, the shot clock's going down, and Baylor's got to take a tough shot. They made a couple, but it's not a recipe for success moving forward.
It made me feel really good. Like I said, I was really upset with our defense in the first half. I felt like it could have been a lot better, and I was getting calls for red alert to watch this game, but then
they were lacking that communication too in the first half.
They definitely were. But I went back and looked at the numbers and thought, we got down by 7 in the first half at one point. We fought back. We ended up tying it. Now, therefore, it was a pretty good shot by Mike Hill to tie the game at halftime. But
felt like a win, all things considered, how the first half was.
It did. We tied it up at halftime, and like you said, we're 15-2 on the free throw numbers. Like, we're giving these guys ample opportunities to almost run away with this game in the first half with the run they went on, and we still fought back. We kept it close, and then we gave Pat Kelsey the time at halftime to make the adjustments, and he did.
I agree. But the victory as a whole, because I've seen some, and look, no matter what Louisville does, there's going to be some people out there that won't give Louisville any credit, right? We know that that's how it goes. Again, I want to reiterate this point that it's not so much the victory and who they got the victory over. It was how they played against a team that is super physical and that has the athletic advantage. And for the first time this season, when going up against a team that plays this way, Louisville didn't look like a deer in headlights. They looked comfortable. They said, you know what? Okay, cool. You can be physical. You've got the athletic advantage, but we've got Michael Brown Jr. and Ryan Conwell. And we have Javon Hadley, who's going to remain Mr. Consistent. We've got Sananda Frew, who only didn't take many shots, but when he did have opportunities, he was dominating. And he played really good defense on the interior as well. So I think if we are maybe overanalyzing and over-magnifying some problems, I think that the supporting cast has to just continue to be consistent, like off the bench. Like Ali Khalifa, Kobe Rogers, and Kenai Roots, none of those three really played well, in my opinion. Ali, he just, if you're going to offer what you offer on the offensive end, you have to, at the very least, be serviceable defensively, because right now, he doesn't really give you much on the defensive end. He doesn't rebound that well, doesn't really play good interior defense, and is not really a serviceable perimeter defender. So he's got to find what works for him, to where he's just got to be, at the very worst, like, not a player that teams are just targeting every single time down the floor, because how many times did we watch in the second half Ollie giving what he's giving you on offense, but you go down defense and gives up an AM1 to a small guard or gives up offensive rebounds to a smaller player? Like, at some point, you have to give some positive or make a positive impact on the defensive end. I know he is who he is, right? That's the type of player that you brought in, but you've got to start getting something defensively from Khalifa.
I feel like Ollie is a player who directly benefits with who's on the floor with him because of his package that he brings. So in this game, like you said, Michael and Javon Hadley were the standouts, but he does really well when Isaac McNeely has a great game. He does really well when Kobe Rogers is playing at his best. Like, these are guys who aren't the first or the second option most of the time, so they get eyes taken off of them, and then they work for those Ali Khalifa back cuts. He's able to run a nice pick and roll off of them. But those two players are two guys who didn't really do a lot in this game at all. And, especially when Adrian Woolley's not on and Kanai Roos isn't on, it's one of those where you kind of take his package away from him and he becomes more of a hindrance. And this game was kind of, especially with how fast he's picking up fouls. I mean, he was fouling everything in sight.
Super tough when you get your package taken away. And when you think about Ali Khalifa, fellas, he's not going to get any better defensively.
No.
We know what he is.
But I think there's something to be said, like, he can play at the very least a little bit better. He can probably rebound better, even if it's marginally. Because look at the rebound numbers for Khalifa over the past couple of games.
What, 2, 3?
Bringing him up right now.
I don't think he's surpassed.
What was the question?
In the 5-game winning streak, rebounding numbers 2, 3, 1, 1, 0. You've got to give at least something more than that. I'm not saying you have to be better than Sananda Fruit defending, but you have to give something more than what you're giving right now. And I understand you're playing a lot on the perimeter, but it's got to be better. And I'm criticizing Khalifa. He's not the only one that needs to play better, right? I think here's the thing. I think, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as the season goes on, if you can get to the point to where you're getting really good minutes from Adrian Woolley off the bench, you really have a chance to unlock your ceiling.
Yes.
Because the second unit matters so much. And if you can unlock your ceiling, it's going to be incredible. But looking at this whole picture of where we're at, the Cardinals are top 15 in most of the metrics. And they're kind of being underseeded a little bit in bracketology. So how much do signature victories matter? Well, we're going to discuss that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Mondays with Dalton Pence here on Big X Sports Radio. 2 segments to go on this week's edition of Mondays with Dalton Pence here on Big X Sports Radio. Dalton, Roman, and Matt. Going to talk a little bit about bracketology. I think we're at that time of the year where bracketology becomes more and more important because you're about a month, give or take, outside of Selection Sunday. I'm not sure what exact day that's on this year. I think it's probably very, very close to a month away. But Louisville is currently in the top 15 in a lot of the metrics that matter. They're number 12 in the net. Awesome to see. They are top 15 in the Torvik and KenPom rankings, if I'm not mistaken. So that's awesome to see. Yet bracketology hasn't been as nice to Louisville, if you will. Most of the bracketologists out there have Louisville in the 5 to 6 category. I've seen Louisville as a 4 in 1, but Lenardi, now this is from Friday before the Baylor win on Saturday, he had Louisville as a 5 seed that just moved up onto the 5 seed line in the Midwest Regional, playing South Florida in the first round. Alabama, the 4 seed. Michigan was the 1 seed. Guys, I hate to say it, but it feels like we're about to get a lot of the same stuff from last year because at the moment, Louisville's best win is who? Kentucky still? Is it still Kentucky? Well, Kentucky's 28. NC State's 29. So those technically are
those two.
Those are your best victories at the moment. 28 and 29. Now, I'm going to do my very best to not go off on a tangent here. But this is my problem with college basketball and how the tournament committee operates. First of all, there is no consistency. And I understand you're asking human beings to make decisions, but Matt made a good point while we were off air. RPI was what most used as the guideline before a couple years ago. And the net rankings were created and implemented to supposedly, in essence, to eliminate some of the biases, to eliminate some of the other categories and create a centralized ranking system that really broke things down. And it feels like we are still seeing the goalposts moved for teams in the SEC, teams in the Big Ten. It's just like football. Matt said it to where here we are, and yeah, Louisville might not have the signature victories over top teams. I'll admit that. They held it back last year. It's probably going to hold their seeding back this year. But they've also got a better strength of schedule than some of these teams that are ranked ahead of Louisville in terms of like the seeding, not necessarily the net ranking. Better strength of schedule. Better quad 1 record. Haven't lost to a quad 2, 3, or 4. And it's like, at what point, maybe it's just, depends on who you ask, but it's just so frustrating to me that here we are, we have another what's supposed to be all-inclusive ranking to where if it doesn't tell you how you should see teams, it gives you a good idea of how they should. And here we are, Louisville is number 12, and the highest that I've seen them is a 4.
When you look at, we talked about Joe Lenardi and the bracketology you recently put out, and Louisville's a 5 in it, correct? So
yeah,
Dalton and I talked during the break.
There's 6 in a CBS one.
Dalton and I talked during the break, and I said that if Louisville wants any chance of getting, let's just sit here and say they're a 5 right now. Let's say the season's over, we're a 5 seed, we're already selected. If you want any chance of moving up, you need to almost basically win out, and you need some guys to lose. Well, if you win out, I think we have a really good chance to see the guys ahead of us lose. Because at least under Joe Lenardi, we have Gonzaga, who's looked not great as of late. I honestly think this team is a little bit fraudulent. I think
You talking about the team that's played 7 quad 1 games.
Yes.
Now, granted, they do have a win over Alabama. But
Alabama's another 4 seed.
Alabama is not a great team. They have a win over Kentucky. Their best win on the season is Kentucky.
Yeah, it's not
They
great.
are 6-1 in quad 1, and they are 8-1 in quad 3. They have a quad 3 loss. They lost to Portland.
Yes,
but that doesn't affect them.
No.
So they don't have the strength of schedule. They don't have the better quality wins than Louisville. The only thing they have is less losses because they play in a worse conference, and they are seated above Louisville. Why?
You have Gonzaga at 4. Then, like I said, like the other one is Alabama. You have Alabama at 4. Both two teams that have been on the downward trajectory recently, and then just continue to look worse and worse. Alabama, I mean, with all the whole Bediako stuff, they've looked like
Alabama's 21 now.
They're rough.
But the seeding, it's because I'm telling you, it's all really. I think all metrics is confirmation bias.
Yeah.
People will look at the numbers, and if what they see supports what they want, then they'll use it that way. And if not, they'll find a way to, okay, Louisville's ranked higher in the net ranking, but this team has a random win on the road on a Monday night against a slightly better team than Louisville's beaten all season.
I'm not worried about those 2 4 seeds. I think that we will see both of them lose at least another game or two. The other two, Vanderbilt, I think, is a team that's just beating up on everybody in the SEC right now. It's kind of bolstering their record. I think they are beatable. I think they're vulnerable. The last one is the only one that I think there's no chance.
Vanderbilt is 7-3 in quad 1.
Yes,
but
they're really good.
They're also 6-1. They have a quad 2 loss.
Like quad 2 loss.
When does it matter, right?
The last one, and I think is probably going to be the one that best chance for us is they actually jump up and then we fill in their spot. That's Texas Tech.
I can agree with Texas Tech because they have arguably 3 of the best victories in college basketball.
They had a really rough start to the season.
They did,
but they've picked it up, and then I mean. You have the best win in college basketball in Arizona on the road.
There's levels to it, right? I mean, there's levels to it, and you know what? It is what it is. If Texas Tech's one of those teams that I'm like, okay, cool, but all these other teams or some of the other teams, and I'm not sitting here saying that Louisville has to be ranked as a 3 seed. They're still trying to prove themselves, right? And it doesn't help that your quad losses you've gotten blown out in some, right? That doesn't help, but it's like. The picking and choosing of when you can use the metrics and when you can't just frustrates me, man. But you look ahead. Louisville does have opportunities, but I wonder how much they're going to be able to move up in the eyes of the tournament committee because 4 of their next 6 games are indeed quad 1 games. But SMU has kind of been up and down.
That's the thing.
Clemson has been losing some.
I think Louisville is in a really great spot right now. One, because unless you drop,
they got to take advantage of it.
They take advantage of it. But if you drop Georgia Tech or Syracuse, those are bad losses.
Oh, very
horrible losses. But
especially Georgia Tech.
You have so many qual 1 opportunities that let's say they don't have some immaculate run that you can still kind of hold on to that 5, 6, maybe if you have really bad run that 7 spot, right? But because you have so many opportunities, you have a chance to still climb this late in the season because of those teams ahead of you are kind of on the downward slope and Louisville's on the upward rise right now.
And they're still sitting good in the net.
Exactly. You have plenty of ample of opportunity to move up. You just have to, take Dalton said, take advantage of it. But you also, unless you have that really bad loss against Georgia Tech or Syracuse, you're kind of sitting in this limbo state where it seems like the metrics already feel like they know what Louisville's going to be. But they have the chance to prove them wrong and still move up.
And this is my largest fear. My largest fear is that, let's say that Louisville, I mean, you've got 4 quad 1 opportunities. Let's say they lose 2 games, okay? Let's say they go 4-2, which would put the Cardinals at what? They would be 23-8. That's still pretty good, right? Let's say that in that, you still, let's say you get to the ACC semifinals. You win a game, at least one game, okay? And maybe you're still sitting top 15 to top 18 in the net, top 20 in the net. I just still have this worry that they're going to get underseeded so badly. Like they're still going to, it's like, okay, top 15, top 20, cool, that's a 6 seed. And it's like, why do these rankings matter then? If you pick when you want to use them and when you don't want to use them. That's the thing. That's the inconsistency. Like we sat there all last March and just clowned the ACC, and then we used it to build up North Carolina and put them in. It's a biased situation, right? We're like, oh well, North Carolina played good teams to start the year out, and they went on a little bit of a tough stretch. Okay, well Louisville
lost to them.
Yeah, Louisville lost to those tough teams this year, but they played the tough teams. Do we get the same grace that North Carolina did last year? No, you don't. Why? Because the confirmation bias is in full effect. That's why it's like, if you're going to try to implement an all-inclusive system, use it, damn it. That's all that I want to see. And I'm not old man yells at cloud here, but I'm tired of all these other teams getting the benefit of the doubt. When Louisville, it's like, oh, well, you saw what they did. Did you see what other teams did in December and January too? Yeah, Louisville's the only team that's gotten blown out to some of these squads.
No, that's what I said before. Is this season I feel like I've watched more blowout losses to serious tournament teams by serious tournament teams than I ever have in my lifetime. But I mean, all the points you make are completely accurate. It's only more reason why Louisville, in general, just needs to take advantage of the situation they're in right now.
They've got to go on a run. They have to continue
to force their hand and say, "Hey, we just won 5 of 6 of these games, and our only loss is Clemson away or North Carolina away." Right? Like it's if anything, we're looking at metrics as a good loss to have, and then you're looking at it, you're like, you need to force the hand of the committee, force the hand of these metrics to say, look, if you're going to still seed us at a 6 or a 7, then Alabama's a 4, then what are we doing here?
St. John's is ranked above Louisville, and they are 24th in the net. They are 3-4 in Quad 1. 3-4. Now, they do have a win over UConn. UConn's a very good win. Their second best win is Baylor. And yet, here St. John's is, they're 3-4 in Quad 1. Louisville is 6-6. They played almost double the amount of Quad 1 games, and Louisville's underseeded to St. John's. Why? Can you answer why? Can anyone answer why? Outside of pointing to that one UConn win.
That's it. That's all you can point to. That's the only thing you can point to.
They got beat by Kentucky by double digits, Auburn by almost double digits. They lost to Alabama. They lost to Iowa State. I see no reason why St. John's is over Louisville at this point. St. John's is 20-5. The Cardinals are 19-6.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to you see what I'm saying? Like when you actually look case by case, some of these are hilarious. And it just goes to show you that it's all confirmation bias at the end of the day. Now, like I said, I didn't want to go off on a tangent, but it just makes me angry because there's no consistency whatsoever. We move the goalpost to see who we want to get what seed we want them to get. Net rankings are cool when you look at them, but they're arbitrary. They're numbers. And the committee, we see what they do time and time again. So
they pick and choose.
It is. But, again, Louisville has an opportunity to make sure that doesn't happen because you control what you can control. If you go 2-0 this week against SMU and Georgia Tech, you put yourself in an even better position. And if you split next week or win both games on the road in the Carolinas, you're putting yourself in a good spot. And if you contend in the ACC tournament, well, I say that. You beat Clemson last year and you almost pulled off an upset against Duke, but that didn't matter to the committee. You still got an 8 seed. But 502-414-1450, the Gameday Men's Health text line. There was a text earlier about bracketology. Let's see. I have to pull that up. My apologies.
Why do we still have bracketology, by the way? We have all these metrics.
Something to talk about.
We just hired Joe Lenardi just to make brackets.
Texas says, I do agree that it feels like we are seated low in bracketology, but if you look at people seated around us, we probably have the best win of anyone. We have to get some top 25 wins.
And in some of those, like I just mentioned, we might have the worst, best win, but we have more quality wins than they do, or we have a better strength of schedule, or we don't have any bad losses. Do bad losses not hurt anybody now?
That's the thing we need to talk about.
Did last year.
Louisville has 0 bad losses on their record.
But that doesn't help you at all.
It doesn't.
It doesn't help you, right? Because you're looking for the best win. If that's the case, if bad losses don't hurt you, and it only matters about who your best wins are, dude, out of conference, schedule the entire top 25.
Yeah.
Because if you beat 2 or 3 of those teams, it's like, okay, well, hey, we're 13-19, but hold on. We beat the number 2 team back in December, so therefore we should be above a certain team. You see, the logic is flawed. Best wins should come into consideration every now and again, but when that is the only thing that you can put like a St. John's over Louisville, what else can you put St. John's over Louisville at? You can't do it on resume outside of a best win. That's it. That is it. Strength schedule? No. More Quad 1 games? No. Louisville's played almost double the Quad 1 games you have. Better wins overall? No. Your second best win is Baylor.
You have a win against a head-to-head opponent that they've played.
Yeah, Kentucky. You've beaten them, and they lost by double digits.
And you're in a weak conference.
I feel like we need to go back to 2016. I'm just going to sip my tea like the frog meme. But when we come back, Louisville does have an opportunity to control their own destiny. They've got a tough game tomorrow night at SMU. It's another quad one opportunity to bolster their schedule. The rematch between the Cards and the Mustangs. Will Louisville sweep the season series with SMU? We'll tell you when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Mondays with Dalton Pence here on Big X Sports Radio. .642 2, final segment coming up here on this February 16th edition of Mondays with Dalton Pence. Taking you up until 7 o'clock tonight. Dalton Pence, Roma Kelly, Matt Childress. Like I said, taking you up for about another 15, 16, 17, 18 minutes. So 502-414-1450 to get any final thoughts or questions into the Game Day Men's Health text line. The Louisville is back in action tomorrow night. They will begin their first of 3 road games to conclude the month of February. They're playing at SMU, part 2 of the season series. Louisville won 88-74 back at the KFC Yum Center on January 31st. Now they will have an opportunity to sweep the season series against a desperate SMU team that just kind of needs to build up that tournament resume at the moment. So let's get a quick vibe check. How we feeling? I know it's on the road. I know the first half was rough against the Mustangs, but second half was much better. How we feeling about SMU tomorrow?
Roman?
I'm feeling great. I mean, I know that we've already gotten to see what our weaknesses were against this kind of a team and what worked, so you know that there's going to be a shift in the game plan for both sides. With that being said, I love the matchup in this one. I love what we've seen from our key players going into this game could mean in this one. I think that you are going to expect a big game from Sanan Nafru. I think he's going to take the challenge of Yigatulu, not trying to allow him to just go off on him 100% from the field again, and to rebound much harder in this game as well. I think that Javon Hadley kind of had favorable matchups against this SMU team last time. So it's just a matter of playing our brand of basketball, incorporating the couple of new things that you're going to need to, and being able to execute those. I think that if Michael Brown Jr. can continue to bring this level of play that he has recently, where he's just letting the game come to him, comfortably commanding the floor and being that floor general we need, and then letting his scoring kind of fall from that, that's too much for these SMU guards to defend, and they're not really the strongest defensively. So go out there, win the guard matchup, win the guard battle, and you should win this game.
I think that that Ryan Conwell is going to play better than how he played the first time around. Now, he did have 12 points, but he was 4 of 15 from the field, 1 of 11 from 3. This was kind of in the midst of that, struggling period that we saw from Conwell in January. I think that with Michael back, you're going to see, because Michael played 29 minutes but came off the bench, had that flu-like symptom type thing going around. But I just ultimately think that Ryan's going to play better because he has been playing better over the past couple games, and unfortunately he's getting overshadowed by how well Michael is playing. But looking at that game from late January, I think it's pretty clear that you have to start out better. I mean, you were down by double digits basically at the first media timeout last time, and you don't really have the home crowd to will you back into it this time around. So I think that a better start is much more critical. And like you said, I think that interior defense has to be better. SMU shot 32% from 3. Most of those came in that first stretch. Louisville was 29% from 3, but the overall rebounding numbers were in favor of Louisville. Louisville out-rebounded SMU by 1, but it's going to come down to better start and being much more engaged on defense because you caused 16 turnovers in that first matchup. So Louisville's a 4.5-point favorite on the road according to FanDuel. This is a quad 1 opportunity. Just that this matchup, if you win tomorrow, it's just another step in that right direction, continually building your resume. This is one you don't have to worry if it's going to stay a quad 1 win or not. I know a couple of them you're kind of worrying about, like the NC State game at home, the Baylor game on a neutral site, which, hey, if it was a true road game, you wouldn't have to worry about it, but I digress.
You're going to keep pushing that button, too, and I love it.
I am. I'm sorry, but we got to stop it. And I know that you get paid to do so. Like, you get paid to go play a neutral site game against a team that's playing close to home, but I don't care. Do some more fundraising. Bring out those old coupon books? Yep. Bring out more coupon books. They've got to have the 2026 versions already out.
Your resume is clearly the most important thing in college basketball at this point.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Why not do whatever you can to make the benefits be as best as they possibly can?
Because right now, Baylor and NC State.
Let's just play all true road games.
It makes me feel like we thought we were going to maybe lose to these teams.
No home games next season.
Nah, I don't know about us beating Baylor.
We got to make some money.
We might lose to Baylor. Let's make this a neutral court.
I ultimately think that I feel like calmly okay about this. Like the first matchup, I was scared to play SMU. I thought that Louisville was going to win, but it was going to be really close, and granted, it was for a long time. I think just watching how the Cardinals match up against SMU, if Louisville's playing their game, SMU isn't as good as Louisville. I think these are two very similar teams. They play fast. They score a lot of points. They're not the greatest defensively, a lot of three-guard lineups. So if you are better at that than they are, you're going to win. And you were in the second half. And if you eliminate the bad start, you could beat SMU on the road by double digits. I'm just honestly just wanting to win the game at the end of the day, but I'm not as worried about this game having saw the first iteration of this season series.
I'm not either, especially with the fact that Mike Hill is playing a lot better, Ryan Conwell is playing a lot better. The team itself seems like they're kind of finding their groove on offense, not only just in transition, but in the half court as well. This was one where you pulled out a gritty win against SMU, and in the second half, you kind of just ran away with it. Like, you really just dominated them in the front court and the back court and all levels of the ball in the second half last time. This is a team that, with Mike Hill playing the ball he's playing right now, nobody can guard him. Nobody can stay in front of him. Nobody can slow him down. So it's going to be like what we did against Cam Boozer at home against Duke. I imagine they're going to play a game of, look, we're going to let Mike Hill do what he's got to do. We're going to take his supporting cast away. Can Mike Hill beat us on his own? And I think he's good enough to wreak enough havoc that game plan won't work because we have enough pieces around us who can still find a way to score, find a way to have success. That's what Pat Kelsey built this team to do, was to make sure that Michael Brown doesn't have to do it alone.
He showed it in that second half, Matt. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, you're good. Go ahead.
You're going to give up my scoring. You're going to take away my ability to get this shot off. Guess what? I'm going to get to the rim. I'm going to get to the free throw line. I'm going to find open players. 5 of those 6 assists came in the second half when we adjusted offensively to the changes Baylor made on their defensive side. And Mike Hill didn't lose a beat.
We also need to stress that when they came in here into our house last time, I mean, what did they start? They started like 5 for 7 from 3. That's all.
We were down like 14-4 immediately.
They would even not even in transition. They would just run off inbounds, come down to the elbow, and pull up, and made like their first 5. Like that's a start of a game.
5 of 6 in the first 5 minutes.
As a Louisville fan, we all watched it. When you need to take advantage of, we did the same thing against Duke and couldn't take advantage of it. We lost that game. That was one where SMU caught us lacking, caught us on our heels early with an incredible shooting performance.
And it didn't matter.
They didn't take advantage of it. I am not expecting them to be able to do the same thing again twice. I think this game will be a lot more balanced. I think that Louisville will keep them at a decent buffer zone throughout the game and pull away a little bit late.
As long as it happens at times where Louisville is consistently late on their closeouts, they've got to do a better job of just at least attempting to defend the three-point shot, because SMU, you're probably not going to play too many teams that have a shooting night like Baylor and go 2 for 22 from 3. You have to just do a better job of defending that mark, and I think that when Louisville was contesting the three-point shots after the first 5 minutes of that game, they were much better. But you look at it, Boobie Miller had 20 points. He was 8 of 14. Jerome Perry Jr. was 3 of 11. BJ Edwards,
I just hope I don't have to
11.
watch Boobie Miller shooting more free throws. That free throw form just makes me want to hurl.
Texter says St. John's beat Villanova, who's 30th, Seton Hall 49th. We are not as different as we would like to think. 2 of the quad ones are Cal and Wake. Until Kelsey beats someone big time, we're going to have that prejudice against us. 4 wins, 28 through 36 is not going to make us stand out. Those are 2-7 and 2-9 seeds. But yes, that's not hurting anyone else though. Is what I'm trying to get at. It's just, but again, like, when do you use that's cool and all, like the signature wins, but why does bad losses not hurt other teams in that regard? Why does strength of schedule not hurt other teams? Why does not playing almost double the amount of quad 1 games not hurt other teams? It only hurts Louisville, it seems. Now, granted, we have a very narrow scope, right? Because we're only focusing on Louisville. But
we are also in a very weird spot where you have a great win against a top 10 team in Kentucky early on in the season who beat on the road and at home a team that beat you by 20. So if you're looking at, when you're going down towards the end of the year, when you're making the brackets, you're looking at Louisville and you're saying, gosh, we could really make an argument these guys are 5. We can make an argument they're 6. We can make an argument they're 4. They're going to look at games like, okay, well, they got blown up by Duke. They got blown out by Tennessee. But they beat Kentucky at a point where they were top 10 in the country. That team also beat Tennessee on the road. There's so many.
It's the double standard. It's the fact that we do hammer on, and they're right. Louisville doesn't have a true signature victory this year, but it's not like they haven't beaten some good teams. That's the thing. It's like we keep hounding on this. Well, they haven't really beat a top team, but you ignore everything else. You ignore that they don't have a bad loss. You ignore that they have a top 30 strength of schedule. It's the double standard. Two things can be true at one time. You can admit that Louisville doesn't have a top victory, and that's true. But you can also admit that that's the nail that's being driven home every single time, but everything else gets overlooked. That's just all that I'm saying. We got a little bit more time left. Couple more minutes. I'm going to ask you all two questions. Number one, does Louisville win tomorrow? And if the answer is yes, do they cover the spread, which is 4.5? Rome, I'll go to you first.
Louisville wins tomorrow, extends this win streak, and they cover. I think the player of the game is going to be Michael Brown Jr. again. In this,
I say that? Can we give me a little bit of credit here? Because who's going to lead in scoring against Cincy State? And I was like, you know what? I think it's going to be Michael. And if you didn't watch the game and just woke up and you saw that Ryan Conwell had 31, you're like, oh, he got it. And then you see that he got outscored by 14. And it's like, dude.
I was so mad at because the entire time I was like, oh my gosh, Dalton was right. And then I saw that, and then because Ryan Conwell would make a three, and I was sitting there, I was like, gosh, he's got to have like 18 or 20 at this point. And my roommate was like, no, he's got 31 right now.
The most quiet 31-point performance I think I've ever seen.
I was angry. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm right, but Dalton's actually just more right.
Can we also both be right? Okay, so you have Louisville winning, Rome, Michael leading scorer. What's the final score prediction?
I think we're in that high-scoring matchup here in this one. I think that both sides both like to shoot some threes. They both like to get going up in transition. I think Louisville wins this one in that 86-80 range.
Okay, so barely covering the spread, Matt.
I think kind of similar here with Roman, but just because you took Michael, I'm not going to take Michael. I'm going to say we have it's a big Zoo game. Zoo's going for 23, 10, and 12. He's playing 15 minutes.
And the 12,
yes.
12 are elbows thrown.
Exactly, they're fouls.
NBA Summer League type vibe.
I think that I'm going to say Ryan Conwell continues to keep it going. I think it's going to be a more balanced game. I don't think we see another 30-point Michael game. I think it's going to be kind of more across the board. We're going to see Isaac McNeely get into this game. We're going to see more Kenai Roos get into this game. Like you said, SMU is not the greatest defensive presence out there. I think that Michael, we're really going to see his court vision come to play. Other guys are going to get their chance at shots, making shots, and I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be Ryan Conwell. I think that Louisville wins and covers. I think they win 91-83.
Okay, you think they break into the 90 range. I'm going to go Ryan Conwell with the leading scorer. I think that he's due to just have one of those games, right, or have another game, really. I think Louisville wins this. I think they're going to cover the spread. I think it's going to be pretty close. I could see this being one of two things. Louisville either A, has a double-digit lead that gets cut late in the game, or it's just a close game that they win late. So I'm going to go 88. I can't say they win by 5 when the spread's 4.5. That's too easy. I'm gonna go 88-81 in favor of the Cardinals.
Okay, Roman, what's your % chance that we have an ambush?
Excuse me?
You know the ambush metric, right?
Oh yeah. I saw that yesterday.
Second in the country. We're due for another. What's the % chance, Roman?
I'm gonna say it's pretty low just because of what Yigatolu did to us last game in that first half. I think Yigatolu probably gets a bucket before we get to a 10-0 lead.
I think 11% chance Louisville gets an ambush in this game.
I'll say 8% chance. Actually, it should
I'm
probably
going to go with a 9%
Okay.
chance. I do think that there's probably going to be a more concerted effort. It would not shock me if Louisville flipped the script and started the game on a hot streak because of how poorly they started against SMU the first time. People can say what they want about Pat Kelsey. Usually a second time around, unless it's Duke, second time around in that season, they usually seem to play better against that team.
I just really love that video of Pat Kelsey that's going across right now where he's almost jumping on all fours in the huddle, and he's like jumping around. And Mike Hill's like talking to Ryan. He's like leaned back. He's like, yeah. So I mean, I think I got like 25 at this point. And Pekka's like barking almost at these guys.
I have not seen this.
You
video.
haven't seen this video?
No.
Oh, it's great. I'll have to pull it up. Roman, you know what video I'm talking about, right?
I haven't seen this either.
What?
I
You
was
guys
about to say,
have-
like,
okay.
what video are you talking about?
I gotta
bro?
find this. Hold on. You go ahead and do your thing.
My thing is waiting for you to.
I gotta find
it before we get out of here.
Yeah, we got 2 minutes. Ron, we have any bets going tonight?
We've got the Texas Tech,
Texas
Tech, Houston Cougars team
Yes, sir.
total over 65.5 is what I took it at. I think it's gone up to 66.5 now, which is a good sign for my bet. With that being said, I do think Houston gets the victory.
What is this video?
It's
hold on. Keep showing it. Oh, it's a 7-second video.
It's in a timeout, and he's just freaking out, jumping up and down, screaming, like, and then Mike Hill is just like sitting back, like just chilling.
I hit a plus.
I just sent it to you, Roman.
Plus 870 parlay last night. College basketball, a little 4-leg action. Got one tonight. Houston money line all the way. I think they're gonna go into Ames and pull up the victory over Iowa State. So I think it's gonna be another good night of Big 12 ball.
Any chance Syracuse covers tonight?
What's the spread?
20.5.
Who they play?
Possibly. That's a decent spread. And
Duke has kept
Duke's
it
one of
close
those
against
teams. Yeah, Duke's one of those teams that like either they're going to beat you by 50 or they're going to beat you by 15. And unfortunately for Louisville's case,
Is it at
it
Syracuse?
was both 15 and 50. No, it's
Cameron
at
Indoor.
Duke.
Oh, no, they don't.
But that is going to wrap up this week's edition of Mondays with Dalton Pence. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next week. Go Cards.
One of the main reasons that
This is Kentuckiana's only locally owned sports talk. The Big X, AM 1450 and 96.1 FM, WXVW Jeffersonville.